now start this segment of our Neighborhood Food Network call. And I'm really excited for Anne to share what she's doing on our website, what to grow in July. But I think just to honor Sylvan's time for being on with us, Anne, we want to let Sylvan go first and talk to us a little bit about microgreens. Sylvan, are you available?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So just before you get started, I just want to share the Neighborhood Food Network. Our intention is to invite and inspire and excite people to grow food on your street and connect with neighbors about growing food and sourcing food locally so that we can be self-reliant and connected and be a compassionate community. So this is our pilot program. We're just getting started, and we have experts on every Monday, mostly every Monday. And tonight, Sylvan from Quebec has offered to speak to us about growing microgreens. And Anne, can you show us his pictures in the gallery?
Yes. I want to let everybody know that we've created a gallery, and we have 3 people on there now. Sylvain was the first, and then there's mine, and we have Zen's, and I would love it for everybody to send. There's a link at the top just for you to send the pictures of your garden, and I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to show you. So basically, Sylvain's a bunch of text in the email, so I put that in here, and then we have his pictures, and we have my pictures and Zen's pictures of the only thing about this gallery I don't like, but I don't know how to fix that, is to be able to put captions under each picture. So Sylvain, if you want me, and I also have, this is the website that that he also works with, called Seed the Globe. And if you want me to switch over there so you can talk about this tool and anything else, and you can just let me know if you want me to go through the pictures, or if you want me to start the pictures so you can talk about them.
Okay, but okay. So I've been doing farm work for a living for over probably 40 years, 35, 40 years. And the last time I've worked, I was in urban farm. I was supervising 16 people for growing microgreens on compost. And we made, so I had quite a bit of experience in growing organic microgreens. And I then stopped to work there because the working on farms, the working conditions are very hard. I won't go too far on that, but I went to work on in the food industry, in the catering industry, and when COVID hit, so I had no more, just like that, I didn't have any more jobs. So I wanted to grow some microgreens in my little apartment, and I rapidly found that using compost, you can grow very good microgreens with compost. Very good, because you also have a protection against disease, because there's a lot of microorganisms in the compost, and there's some protection from all these microorganisms. And so I just I wanted to find a way to grow microgreens without soil in my apartment, and I found something that I wanted to do something commercial, and I'm working on that.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah. It's that. So it's nearly ready. This is ceramic, no plastic, and we have done 4 of these ones. And we're going to.
I'm sorry. Wait a second, Sylvan. I just want to interrupt. I just want to make sure people heard you. It's ceramic, right? It's not plastic. Yeah. Why is it ceramic and not plastic?
Because I don't like plastic.
And why is that?
Why is that? When you work in like you work in a maple groove, or you buy these black plastic tray and put water on that, put water and smell the water. Even if they're supposed to be food safe or plastic that is okay for growing food, there's a taste, there's another, it's horrible. And the same thing with maple group. The first time the water, the maple water passed through the tubing, it's absolutely horrible. The taste is it's unbelievable, horrible. So there's stuff in the, I mean, some plastic goes in the food and
okay, so the plastic degrades into the water and into the sprouts is what you're saying. You can taste it.
But when it's a brand new plastic, you can taste it. Not necessarily in the microgreens, but put some water in the plastic and let it sit there for a while. But you'll smell the.
Okay.
Yeah. So I really don't like that. And but first time I was trying working with plastic, but then I changed my mind to find something with ceramic. And I made many designs, and my design were good, but was still not different enough from the competition. So one night I had an idea. I said, why don't I grow them using a simple? I grow them using a coffee filter, paper coffee filter, that I put under the onto the microgreens. Most people will use some hemp mat or bamboo mats or all kind of mats that are quite costly, and a lot of companies will sell preceded, like Hamama. Hamama is a very beautiful company that make sprouting microgreen kits from California.
But they're expensive.
Yeah, they're very expensive. So it's $5 to $7 not a mat. It's very expensive. So now I had this idea. You can use I can use paper filter, coffee paper filters. Cost what, 2 cents, and you can put any seeds you want. And so the idea is to because I was working in urban farming, I always have this idea. It has to be profitable. When I grow something, I have to make money with it. And yeah, with this simple system, I think that the challenge is to be able to manufacture that in big enough quantities so we can have a price that is competitive with plastic. It's not yet there, but.
So there's no soil in here. It's just the filter. And what kind of sprouts are these? There looks like there's 2 different ones. They look very healthy.
Yeah, there's in the front you have red radish. The big ones are buckwheat, and you also have some in the back. You have some daikon radish and fenugreek. But very often I also grow broccoli
And how many days growth is that, Sylvain?
About I would say 10 days.
10 days of growth, and all you did was put the coffee filter down on top of the ceramic and spread the seeds on there and water it. Is that correct?
Plus for the 3-4 first day, you put the saucer on top of it, or I put on a plate. You have to put a cover that yes, that's enough. You press a little bit the seeds so it helps the roots go through the paper. So for the 3, 4, 5 days, normally 3, 4 days for germination, and you'll see the cover will the sprout will lift the cover. Then you very simple. You can do the same with an ordinary clay saucer and with the filter paper. You could put some sticks. You want to put some space between the water and the paper filter. You want some air for the roots. You can do it without any air with the paper directly on the plate, but the growth will be much better if you put. There will be a difference in speed of growth and the total yield if you have a little bit of air between the roots and the water.
So this is the prototype. So when will do you have any plans for when this will be available?
Probably at least 1 month, because we have to make another batch. We made a first batch for them, so now we'll make another small batch just to adjust the details. Then we go into production with, you know.
So this rim around the edge, is that where you water it, or is that to catch overflow, or?
So it's a reservoir. It's to have more water, and that way you can see the water level also when this ridge.
And I think Frankie had a question. How long will these sprouts last if you don't harvest them right away?
Not right away, not more than a week. But if you lift them, put them in the fridge, just like that, they will stay in, and put some water, maybe sometimes every 2-3 days. They will last for 2 weeks in the fridge.
Oh, wow. Okay. For
You
2
don't-
weeks. And you can put these in smoothies, you can put them in salads, you can, garnish your dinner with them, right? Do you use them in any other ways besides that?
I don't make smoothies, but I put them nearly anywhere, everywhere.
Yeah. And the nutrient density is very high. I was just looking at some videos, and I might talk about this more later if people are interested. So I was just looking up ways to reduce costs for chicken feed as well. And they said to get seeds and to just put them, on a tray and sprout them and grow basically fodder. And you will 10x the nutrients that you get out of that seed by growing it as a sprout. So it must be the same thing with humans. Eating microgreens is going to be 10 times more nutritious than just eating, say a sunflower seed, right? You are getting 10 times the nutrition. Have you heard about that? The nutrition levels?
Yeah, the nutrition level depends on some vitamins 10 times, 40 times, 60 times. It's happening. And I grow them with pure water, but I know that you can put fertilizer and have some more growth. And there's one fertilizer that I'm very, very interested in. It's made with sea salts. When you make sea salt, you remove the salty, and you have minerals. You're left with minerals. That makes a very, very good fertilizer. And I took that from Mike Adams. He said, if you grow your sprout with some minerals in the water, the sprout will pre-digest the minerals for you. So when you can grow your own supplements.
Wow, that's great. And do you remember what the name of that supplement is called? I mean, that fertilizer?
It's a sea agro. Just let me see if I have it. Yeah, it's in the USA. Okay, Sea Agri.
Sea Agri. Okay. SEAAGRI.
I'll put it on the
right. Okay. Great. Thank you. That sounds very interesting. I didn't know about that. And Kathy's saying broccoli sprouts have some of the highest levels of nutrients in them, right? If I could see all of her comment, that's great. All right. Well, that's what you're growing inside. Now, microgreens, people can see that if you haven't grown microgreens before, it is very easy, right? You just put the water, and now the way that you're saying it, I feel better about because I honestly have plastic containers, but my son and I aren't really excited about it because we're growing sprouts in plastic. I don't like that. So I can't wait for your, we're not doing it right now, but we did in the past. And I don't like that idea. So we really haven't done it very often. But so we can't wait to see when your prototype is out and be able to check that out. I appreciate it. Would you like to share a little bit about what are you growing right now in your garden outside, and we can transition to.
I don't have a garden. I have 4 little pots with some tomatoes and a few pots with Artemisia, and some. But I have a kind of a bicycle parking space where I like to play with seed balls. I mean, when I was working at the organic farm as a supervisor, I also had some place in the country to try to do stuff with seed balls, and there's a lot of fun. So my idea when I tried that just for fun, but when I saw the result, I said maybe we could use all kind of seed balls with food any kind of seeds, food plants, and maybe we could grow a lot of that. I don't know.
So this looks like it's just basically gravel, and you're growing in it.
Yeah, but I mean, the pak choi is not 1 feet high. It's just half a feet high. It's half wild, but still very good. I mean, for leafy greens, I was very surprised with the results.
So can you tell people how you make a seed ball?
Yeah, it's I've made a YouTube video about that. I've devised a technique to make seeds ball. But basically, it's you mix a compost, and I have a recipe for a compost with biochar and vermicompost and rock powder and flour. It's called my super compost, but you're not obliged to use. You can use any compost. And compost, some potting mix, and some clay, red earth clay.
So you have this tool here that you were
Yeah, I have. That's. I didn't make this one. I have a prototype with two thongs only, and the idea is to take some. You mix your seeds and clay and compost. You make like a dough, and you roll it like you would roll a
snowball, like a snowball.
No. You roll it with a pin, like to make a pastry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then you roll it maybe half an inch, maybe, and then you cut it in strips. But if you cut it with a knife, each time you cut, it will stick again. So that with it's rods like that, it press them, it make a distance between the strips. Then I put a lot of dry clay and compost on top of that, and then I cut everything in small square, and I put everything in a small call it container, round container for washing dishes, and I play with it. I make them shrivel, and they basically they become round, more or less round. That's how I make them.
And then you throw them outside in your neighborhood before it rains, and they get fertilized, and I mean the water opens up the little ball and they grow. Is that what the idea?
Yeah. And when you're in the country, the little ball would be completely disintegrated. Will disintegrate completely. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I did that one time in my neighborhood, but I put too much fertilizer in, I think. So not much took off. I think it's sort of like it can like burn the seed if you put too much fertilizer in. So
yeah. You have to use for most seeds, you have to use a very old compost, because the fertilizer could inhibit the germination.
Yeah, too much bacteria and fertilizer in there. So
if anybody's interested, I did put the link to his blog post about the Japanese farmer that invented the seed ball, and it's pretty interesting. So
you want to put my the video, my link to the video I made on YouTube?
Great. Yeah, Frankie's calling it guerrilla farming. Yeah, you could just, I saw a post too about somebody who saved all their peach seeds in a little, a container and in their car. When she's driving around, when she gets to, places where there could be a nice peach tree, she throws them out. So, we could be doing that. We could be doing guerrilla gardening all over our cities and towns.
And using seeds. There was an experiment I did about 10 years ago. I was reading from it's a Russian hybridizer, but it is 1900, a very old one, and it was translated in French. So how we know what small fruits like cherry, like let's say small fruits like raspberry, blackberries, currants. Okay, these seeds will take 3 years to fruit. It's the same time as if you were using transplant, and also the plant you grow from seed will be more vigorous than any if you clone, cut, or graft. This plant will be less vigorous than a plant that you grow from seeds.
Really?
and it works. It works. I've tried it. It works. And then we're talking small fruits. So it's like apple. You say, okay, I plant a big apple. I have only a small apple. It's not true, but anyway. But small fruit, you get the same. Doesn't matter. You get the only difference. You'll get many plants, and the maybe one plant will bear early, the other plant will bear late, and that's, yeah. So for commercial, for something commercial, it's maybe not good. But.
Yeah, and I think growing fruit trees or berry bushes from seed is an exercise in patience and connection with nature, and it's maybe something we all need a little bit more of. We're all so fixed on getting Amazon thing right now and binge watching a whole season right now, and everything has to be right now. Maybe growing a peach tree from the seed is what we all need right now.
Yeah, but peach and plums, it's only 6 years to get some fruits. I say only, but yeah, and for the small fruits, it's a lot of fun to look the little plants. Maybe it takes 3, but it's a lot of fun. And can you imagine if you have if you buy some raspberry or some currants? Do you imagine how many seeds there is in a box? Maybe.
Yes, there's so many.
So many.
Yeah.
So I was fantasizing. But what if people all over the world were starting small nurseries, and producing those small fruits?
So Thomas, did you have a comment?
I do have a comment. It's a quick story.
Mm-hmm.
Into this little studio in Santa Cruz, California. I think it was around 2000. And I had there was 3 studios on the property, and I had the back one in the backyard in a little overgrown garden area that was just overgrown with, I don't remember, blackberries or something. But in that little garden area, there was this tree. I didn't know what it was because a lot of the main branches were broken down and hanging in the ground. And there was only like a couple of leaves on this whole tree. And so what I did was I put a border around it with wood, maybe a foot and a half from the trunk on all sides. And I started putting all my kitchen scraps in there. And when I would cut the lawn, I would put the grass in there. And the next year after, there was like 6 plums on that tree. And the second year after, there was like 50. And the third year after that, there was like 300 plums on that little tree.
What?
That tree was
only 3 years?
3 years. That tree was on death's door, literally. It was on death's door. And all I did was put that box around the base, put my kitchen trimmings in, and the lawn and the green grass. And from 1 year was almost dead to 3 years later, over 300 plums on that little tree.
Wow.
That's my comment.
So I went to a
Beautiful
vegan 4th of July, and they had a huge mulberry tree, and so we were picking mulberries off of it, and the owner of the house said, "Oh my God, I'm so annoyed because seedlings are popping up everywhere." I said, "Really?" So I have my mulberry tree, and it's already grown about an inch since I've had it since 4th of July. And I guess these mulberry trees grow super fast as long as you can fertilize them well. And then I was just listening to David the Good's Compost Everything book, and he said this one tree that wasn't doing so well, he put a little swimming pool in, and the ducks went in there, and they made a huge mess, and all the water that spilled out of that pool made this tree explode. So there you go.
Really? I could use our duck poo for okay. We're gonna have to move that over to the fruit trees.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, we now have ducks. We've been gifted some ducks. We bought a few originally, and then we're gifted some ducks and more goats. So we've got more animals that we know what to do with right now, and a lot of poo. So we need to use that poo to put it to good use. Yeah, but also the kitchen scraps. I just ate acorn squash that was totally a volunteer. So it was just it was composted. I dug a hole in the garden because Ann told me to do that. And I dug a hole and put it in the garden. And then, a couple weeks later, I've got acorn squash coming out of there. So it was delicious. Really, really good. Yeah.
So I just built a new bed because I'd gotten some wood and some more soil, and I started layering it like a hugelkultur almost, because it was 2 feet high. And I started, instead of throwing all my kitchen scraps into the compost bin, I was throwing them all into the middle of this bed. So, and then when I'd find some worms, I'd go put them in there too. So hopefully I'm creating a good environment to grow some good food.
Yes, you are. Absolutely. That's fantastic. You're improving your soil. All right. So Anne, do you want to show? Thank you very much, Sylvan, for that. I really appreciate microgreens and seed balls. Very interesting from somebody who's really
So go
focused on
take,
it.
yeah, go take a look at our gallery page. I put the link in there. It's,
Mhm.
and I put the link to his website too, where that story is about the seed globes. But yeah, it's all very interesting. So I was working on a blog post this share my screen this last week, because a lot of people are thinking that it's too late. You know, July is when people are, you know, their gardens in full swing and this and that. And a lot of people think that they can't really grow a whole lot. So I started to do some research, and I found there was 20 plants that you guys can plant for a fall harvest. And a lot of these plants, like arugula and the Asian greens, they grow really quickly. So you can succession plant those all year long. I mean, all season long. Every couple of
Arugula, you said? Arugula,
Yeah.
you can just keep planting? Okay.
Yeah, and the Asian greens and lettuce, and I just planted. So if you see up here, you see the 20 plants, you can click on there and it'll jump down. It'll jump down to what I just planted, a whole thing. From reading this, from doing the research on this, I started planting a bunch of stuff. So it was a lot of fun. This cauliflower is actually from my garden.
So
And
did you say you just planted a whole bunch of carrots?
Yeah, I just planted a whole bunch of carrots in that new bed.
Yep.
I
Okay,
just-
can you talk a little bit about that? Because I have not been successful in growing carrots, because you need to plant them on very tiny amounts of soil. You can't plant them deeply, and they have to be moist for like a very long time. You have to put something over
So
them.
a lot of people will put a board, they'll plant a row of carrots, and what I've learned is your soil has to be very workable. You can add some sand into it, but it
Mhm.
can't be a hard packed clay, or they're not
Right.
gonna grow well at all. And
Right.
another thing that I learned that is really important, and I didn't do it last year, and I don't think I did a very good job of it this year, although I did better, was thinning them out. When you lay the row of seeds,
Mhm.
if you've ever seen carrot seeds, they're teeny tiny, and trying to plant them, spacing them out, you'll be there forever. So when they start coming up, people will put a board over, keep it moist, and they'll put a board over it, number one, so if they don't blow away. And then you
How
keep
long?
checking.
How long do you keep the board over it for?
Well, I planted my carrots 3 days ago, and I'm starting to see sprouts come up now. So once you start seeing that the plants come up, then you have to take the board off.
Okay.
But once they come up, you need to take the ones that look like they're the healthiest, and then thin them out.
Oh, okay.
So you can get the bigger carrots. Last year I got a lot of carrots, but they were tiny, and some of them were misshapen. I ended up spending the entire afternoon prepping them. I canned them, but this year I vowed to do a better job. So
Could you just plant them further apart so that you don't have to thin them?
Yes, you could. But
Okay.
when you see the size of the carrot seeds, I started to do that, and after about 10 minutes of that, I just started sprinkling them, because you can.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They're
I do
extremely
know
tiny.
they have tools for seeding, but I don't know about carrots.
And I have a question. Isn't this a good time to plant turnips and parsnips too?
Okay, so down here we have turnips, and I
Mhm.
just ordered turnip seeds because I've never grown turnips, and rutabagas.
Right. Which is like,
They don't get the love they should. So I mean, you can put, chop them up, put them in salads. You can mash them like potatoes, and Also, another fast growing food is radishes. And I don't know if you know this, but radishes are a great prebiotic. They actually will feed your probiotics to help keep your microbiome in really good shape. And radishes grow really quickly.
Yeah, they're ready in less than 30 days, aren't they?
Yeah, I planted a batch of radishes and they didn't do well at all, but I think it's because of my soil. So I just redid the bed. I've been putting some compost in. Soil is so important to growing good crops. So I replanted and they're probably about an inch high. So I'm pretty excited about that. Peas are a great fall crop. They love the cool weather. So I have 140 pea plants that I'm starting inside in my basement that I'll be planting out. You can plant them in the ground, but I'm going to try it this way. So peas are a great crop. You get sugar snap peas, snow peas, and shelling peas. I'm growing all shelling peas so I can have a harvest that I can freeze for the winter. Mustard greens are great to grow. They're fast growing. And obviously the lettuce, this is actually a picture from my garden. These mustard greens are from my garden.
Can I add something? So I grew 3 mustard green plants and I had so much mustard, like so much mustard greens, my family couldn't even eat it all, while it was growing. And so now we've let it go to seeds and there are probably hundreds of thousands of seeds. So once you get 1 pack of mustard greens, if you're willing to let it go to seed, you don't pull it up too soon, you will have thousands of seeds to last you for, another year or two. Unless, can you plant mustard seeds the next year? The seeds good? Do they last?
Yeah.
If you keep them cold?
Yeah, and lettuce, I let one of each one of my lettuce plants go to seed, and then I put them in. Once they start forming the seed heads on them, I'll just take the entire thing and put it into a paper bag, and I put that in my
shake it up.
and I put that in my basement. I shook it up, and just as a fun test to see if I could do it, I sprinkled a bunch on some soil in my basement, and I don't know if they all came up, but a lot they came up, and I was getting
That's
lettuce.
great.
The same with
Right.
So I'm letting, like, cilantro is another good cool weather crop. Chard likes the cool weather. You can start cucumbers now, which I didn't know.
Okay, but hang on a second. When you say start, can you clarify if you mean sow directly in the ground or sow in seed pots in your house under, a grow light in cooler weather
You can
in your
direct
house?
seed, like the peas I'm starting indoors, but you can plant them outside as well. But
It's not too hot for them?
I have a lot of broccoli and cauliflower in my garden. I really isn't doing anything, so I think I'm just going to compost it all because they don't like this really hot weather.
Yeah. That's one thing about being a gardener. You start to learn when you have to just get rid of a crop and move on and plant something else. But I'm seeing from people like the Instar lady that we had on, was the singer. She said she doesn't like to pull it up by the roots. She just cuts the plant, at the base so that you leave those roots and the good micronutrients and everything that's going on with those roots. Do you do that too?
I'm not going to, but I would, because like peas, they're nitrogen fixers, so it's good to leave those in the soil. But the bed that I had this broccoli in, I don't think that had good soil in it, so I'm going to redo that whole bed too.
Okay.
I mean, being a gardener is a learning experience. Bush beans will grow really quickly. These are from my garden. These purple beans, I planted them, I don't know, a month ago, maybe, and they are purple beans and they're great. And so and broccoli is another cool.
Are those the purple beans? And are those the purple beans that turn green when you cook them?
Yes.
Yeah, they're really cool looking. I do wish they would stay purple though. It'd be more fun to eat them purple.
And the dragon tongue beans that I gave you, that is coming in, those will lose their color too when they cook.
Do you cook those as a whole pod, or do you take the beans out? You do? Oh, okay.
Yes, and I think you can have them be hard beans. Thomas, did you have a comment?
I have one more important comment.
Okay.
That when I told that story about that plum tree, There was one other ingredient that I added because I was like a block away from the ocean. And so I
You
would
were
go
lucky.
and I would go down and get kelp from the beach, seaweed,
Mm,
would wash
yep.
the silt off. And that's the one other thing that I added to the to that little box underneath that plum tree. And I believe it was really one of the successful ingredients because of the trace minerals, which are missing.
Yes.
I also grew in that garden snap peas, or I can't remember snap peas or sugar sweet peas. You know, this one of them I grew, but I put in about 8 plants in a row. And I went to the organic garden store and I also got liquid kelp and powdered kelp. And I added that to the mix of things I put in the soil. And that, I call that row of peas the wall. It was probably about 8 feet long. And I made a frame and I hung strings down from the frame so that they would be able to climb up. And they climbed up to 6 feet in no time, and they probably would have went to 8 or 10 feet if I made the wall higher. And I gave so many peas away, I couldn't even give them all away.
Wow.
I just, my comment is trace minerals. Seaweed is what I use, both in powdered kelp form and in liquid kelp form, and then seaweed actually from the beach that I washed the salt off. So I wanted to add that for a gardening comment because our soils in a lot of places are missing the trace minerals. And there's this company that sells this bagged minerals called Bloomin' Minerals. Has anybody heard of Bloomin' Minerals?
Is that
No.
like azomite? Because that's what I got. Azomite, which is volcanic rock dust.
I wish I knew, but the volcanic rock dust sounds good because it comes from the center of the earth. But
Mhm.
minerals, you can buy it. They'll overcharge you for it. But there is a probably less expensive substitute, whether it's azomite or something else, and just seaweed. If you can get it and wash the salt off, because you don't want a lot of salt in your soil.
Wow, it's not cheap.
I'm absolutely convinced it's what made that wall of peas grow and that tree put 300 plums out in 3 years after being almost dead. And the last thing I'll add is I also grew a row of leeks and they went berserk. I put in the same seaweed and that was like another wall, although not as tight. And then the real special thing about the leeks is when they went to flower, the bees were in heaven.
Mm.
Literally, there's a ball on the top of a leek when it goes to seed, and there's probably 100 or 200 little flowers in that ball, and the bees were in heaven.
Mm.
My borage is
Beautiful.
blooming now, so I have 3 hives in my garden, and I had 2, but they decided to take up residence in the 3rd one, and my bees are very happy right now.
Oh, borage is fabulous. And the little blue flower you can put into ice cubes and make beautiful ice cubes for when you have company over. They love it. It's so beautiful. It's an edible flower. Yeah, you can do it with violets too. I've done that. It makes me so happy. Yeah, but I have a question about, so when garlic and onions go to seed and they have this beautiful round ball shape at the top, the garlic has like, it's almost like little mini garlic cloves.
They
can
are
you,
they are. You can eat them as snacks.
but can you plant them to grow? Yes, you can plant them to grow garlic too. It probably takes longer. I'm getting
It will take 2 years instead of 1.
2 years
Yeah.
instead of 1. Okay.
Your small bulb will grow 1 bulb, and
Uh-huh.
replace the bulb, and it will grow many bulbs. You know, or instead of having many bulbs in your plants, the small bulbs will only grow bigger, 1 bulb, and then when you replant it, you will have a real garlic head with many bulbs.
Okay.
2
So
years.
you take it out and replant it, or just let it stay there for 2 years?
I would. You can let it there for 2 years or replant it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, good. It's good to know because I have a lot of those and I figure might as well just spread it out and plant it somewhere once, like in the fall, right? When it's cooler.
Yeah, normally. And I never did that. I just heard about it. And
Okay.
but I just wanted to say something for the thinning carrots and thinning. When you want to thin carrots, just research a little bit about the rake using a rake for thinning carrots and
Mhm.
and chives, and it's very efficient. I've done it.
Oh, all right.
When the soil is dry, you will take the rake gently, but you pass it perpendicular to, you have your plant, you pass it like that, and you will kill some of the plants, but you have a nice spacing. It's very fast. It's very easy.
Yeah, because when I was trying to thin them last year, I just got tired of doing it because I was down in there, you know, that seems like a much better way to do it.
Yeah, it's very delicate work. Yeah.
And this weed also, when you do it at the right time, the timing is all thing. The weeds will be in your carrots. The weeds will have very tiny roots, and you will do a weeding at the same time, because the weeds roots are not very deep, but they're easy to take off. So the double advantage.
And the chickens love the carrot tops then.
Yes, I know that. And they're also really good for greens, for soup. You can dry them and chop them up and add the carrot tops to soup. It's a lot of vitamin A. It's really good. Yeah, I've been learning so much about oh, and okay, here's the other thing too. If you have good recipes, Anne's gonna be starting to add those to the website. I made a delicious yellow squash soup the other day, and just added a bunch of herbs to my garden that I just figured, you know what, this might taste good, you know, like thyme and dill and sage, and it was so, and garlic, it was so amazing. So we're going to be starting to add recipes and stuff too to your website, our website, because
so
we're getting way too many squash right now.
This is yellow squash, and I thinly sliced red onions and put in some raspberry balsamic and marinated it with some salt and pepper, marinated overnight. It's delicious. I never thought to do that.
Yeah, it's so great.
Okay,
Really great.
Thomas?
It's a little bit more about the seaweed. When I used the actual live seaweed from the ocean, I'm almost positive it had other growth factors that are natural to the plants as opposed to just a powder when I put it around that tree. So I'm pretty convinced that there are other growth factors in live seaweed that help. And also, as far as recipes, I cook my beans, all of them, with a 3-inch strip of kombu under the beans after you wash the salt off the kombu. And so you get a flavor enhancer like MSG with no bad side effects. You get the trace minerals, and it's just a wonderful thing.
What is it?
Kombu, Kombu. That's kelp. And you put a 3-inch strip under a cup of beans when you cook them for the trace minerals, for the flavor, and other nutrition. And I use 3 or 4 other seaweeds every day almost. Seaweeds for the trace minerals and nutritional benefits.
I'm in Milwaukee.
Yeah, well, you can buy them.
Buy them.
You can buy them in the natural food store. And not to brag, but I'm 72 years old and I live on the north shore of Oahu, and I still surf on a short board in some of the most dangerous, difficult waves on the planet. And I'm convinced it's got something to do with the seaweed and the fact that I've pretty much eaten organic food for 50 years.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Thomas. I probably saw you when I was in the North Shore one year. It was it was just breathtaking. And you don't look like you're 72, you look like you're 45. So I think we should listen to you.
Yeah,
great.
so anyway, so I put the link here to our blog post if you want to check this out. Also, Zen said, if you do have some good recipes to send to me, I'm going to be putting up, I have a roasted cherry tomato pasta sauce that once I made it, I that's all I've ever put on my pasta. It's so good. And when the cherry tomatoes come in, I was literally making it almost every other day.
Wow, great.
So,
And you can preserve it too, because you make the roasted cherry tomato sauce and then freeze it.
you can also, I do freeze it. I have canned it, but it's a lot easier for me just to throw it in the freezer. But you know, if the power grid goes down, I'm gonna wish I'd canned it.
Yeah, I know. I got a canner from a yard sale, no, actually from the bins at Goodwill, $19 a canner. So I just have to figure out if it needs to be calibrated, or, you know, I have to check the lid and all that kind of stuff. So you guys, you know,
Well,
try
tomato sauce only need to be water bath canned. So I'm going to be also putting up information on canning, but tomato sauce,
Okay.
the acidity is high enough that you don't have to pressure can it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Good. You know what I learned about tomatoes last year, which, because I wasn't ready to can yet. I didn't have enough tomatoes. We were just eating them. And I only had like 3 bags of extra tomatoes that I was busy and I just couldn't do anything with them at the time. So I learned that you can just put the whole tomatoes in a Ziploc bag, right? And just a bag of tomatoes whole. And then later on, when you want to cook them, you just run it under warm water and the peel really easily slips off.
But core them first. I didn't core them and it was pain in the
Oh.
butt because when they all thawed out, it was not real easy to core them. So
Yeah, a lot of seeds. Yeah.
I learned just to core them. I have a strawberry core.
Okay. You do
use
that before you freeze them? Okay,
Yeah.
see, this is the tricks. This is why we do this call, folks, because
And
you gotta
then,
learn.
and then the skin, since you already have the hole in the top where you cored out the tomato, then the skin really comes off. And
Yeah.
then if you can dehydrate all those skins and make tomato powder, I did that, and I had a mason jar full of tomato powder, which I would throw into soups.
Oh, I just gave the tomato skins to my chickens.
Well, you
So,
have chickens. I don't have chickens.
Right, yeah, no, tomato powder sounds really good. But Frankie was asking, what's the problem with the seeds being in the tomatoes? Like if you want to make tomato sauce, what's the problem with that?
There's not really much of a problem. It's some people don't mind it, other people. So like the cherry tomato, when I do the roasted cherry tomato sauce, obviously I'm not seeding them or coring them. I'm taking the little green top off and putting it on a cookie sheet and throwing it in the oven. And then all the juice and everything that I pour that into a pot where I have sauteed onions and garlic and everything. And then I use an immersion blender.
An immersion blender. Immersion blender is one of your best friends in the kitchen
Yeah.
when you're making sauces or soups. I could not live without it. Yeah, if I was on a
And-
stranded island, I would have to bring my immersion blender.
And it's the most delicious pasta sauce. It's so simple. So I will be putting that recipe up. Luckily last year I took pictures of the cookie sheets before and after.
Oh, good.
But I'm not kidding. Every 3 days I had 4 or 5 cherry tomato plants, and the sun golds were like, wouldn't stop producing. So I was making pasta sauce like crazy, and I just used my last jar of it. So.
Yeah, I'm actually getting a little nervous because we have 30 tomato plants and some of them are gigantic. And I'm a little scared that we're gonna have baskets.
You have a big freezer, don't worry.
Yeah, we do.
I'm
gonna put the boys to work. I'm gonna put them to work we're all gonna learn a new skill together with how to can or, and or freeze or make sauce or whatever. And they're gonna learn how to make salsa, and it's a whole new adventure when you're gardening. You're learning things all the time.
I have 70 tomato plants in my garden right now, and I have about 10 volunteers that I've come up that I've just kind of let go. So
do you have a dehydrator, Zen?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Because my local farmer, she dehydrated her tomatoes. This stuff was like candy. I couldn't stop eating it. I would just dehydrate them, cut them kind of a little bit thicker because with the water, they're gonna shrink down.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, they're so good. I'm still thinking about it.
Did you put anything on them? You just
Oh,
cut them?
I didn't do it. The farm, Judy Levy, she's the local farmer. She's taking a hiatus this year, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think.
I'll look up the recipe. I'll look it up.
You might not need anything, just the tomato.
So I'm growing these tomatoes called Principe Borghese tomatoes, and they're supposed to be the tomato for sun drying, and that's why I'm growing them, so I can have sun-dried tomatoes. So
When you freeze your tomatoes, do you freeze them in how do you freeze them in glass or plastic? Or
I just put them in a Ziploc, and
That's what I do.
when they're ripe, they're not all going to become ripe at the same time. So I had probably 15 great big 2-gallon size Ziploc bags that I just hauled upstairs and started letting them thaw out. And I have a big roaster, one of those great big Nescos, and I made a huge batch of tomato sauce in that.
Mhm.
And then I canned it. It took me a couple of days to cook, for it to cook down. But
Couple of days.
yeah,
I blanch them, Joan, and then I cube kind of cut them up a little bit and freeze them in Ziploc bags. I just had some and they were just like amazing.
One summer, what my son did, because I just couldn't take, I just didn't have time. He just sliced up all the tomatoes that I had that were just around, and he just roasted them with, he just roasted them as is, and they were amazing. And he just threw them in bags after they were roasted.
once you start growing tomatoes, it's almost impossible to buy one in the store.
Oh, totally.
But
Like,
that's
where do those even come from?
that's
Wait, those tomatoes, they're like, it's like plastic.
I just opened a jar from 2020 of tomato sauce, and I popped it open and I smelled it, and it was just like, because they say, you know, that your canned stuff's only supposed to last for 12 months. Pshaw. As long as the seal's intact, and it smelled just like so wonderful.
Do you find it's better to, if you have a choice, do you prefer to can or freeze? Do you feel there's a difference in taste?
All my tomato sauce I've canned. The pasta sauce that I've frozen, as I haven't noticed any difference. I was freezing it in mason jars. I can't tell you how many mason jars I've thrown out because it's so odd.
Because why? They break in the freezer?
Well, yeah, I've learned not to fill the jar up too full.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
I
well, just the main thing about freezing, even though it's definitely more convenient, if the power goes out, then there goes your food. So we're trying to encourage people to learn how to can and preserve as much as possible. Like dehydrating is another, like you were saying, another great way to take care of them. We're trying to support, and we will be putting canning stuff on there, and I'll be learning right along with everybody. Anne's been doing this for a couple years now, but
Well, there's
never.
there's my potatoes that I did last year, and I've got my currant jelly up there, and the corn I just did, and
It's amazing.
it's really a lot of fun. And pressure canning shouldn't scare anybody. I mean, I have an older pressure canner like Zen. I got it at a garage sale on Facebook, this woman, and I don't know what people are so afraid of.
See, it seems scary ahead of time. Like before I made goat cheese, it seemed like, oh no, I couldn't do that, and we'd get all moldy and it wouldn't taste right. And but once you do it, it's so easy that you're just like, why didn't I do this before? So yeah, it's so much easier than people think. And so I'm trying to take that attitude with canning, that it's not going to blow up in my face. I'm not going to burn my eyebrows off. Somehow it's going to work out.
So the ball canning book, which I have on our page, products we love. I have the ball canning book up there. That's kind of the Bible. And you'll find out, what needs to be pressure canned, what doesn't, what can be water bath canned, and water bath can is so easy. So
Just have to have the clamps and the containers and just something inside of the pot. We'll
you have to have a
thing about that.
Yeah, you have to have a trivet on the bottom of the pot so the jars are on the bottom, but you can water bath can in any pot.
Right.
Super easy.
All right, so before we close off here, can you go back to the what you can plant in July page, and just let's go through that one more time so people are aware of what you can plant in July. Can you say out loud which ones you can directly sow in the ground and which ones you should probably plant indoors?
The beets you can directly sow outdoors. You can also start them indoors. The broccoli, I mean, most of these, the bush beans, you should probably just start outside. And
wait, what about, you didn't say about broccoli? Which one should you do with broccoli? Indoors?
The broccoli, you can do both, but I started mine inside.
Yes, because broccoli likes colder weather. I mean, it's still like 90 something degrees here.
I started my broccoli inside, and I'm not putting heating pads under it or anything.
Right, okay.
It's
So
fine.
broccoli indoors, beets and beans outdoors. What else?
Bush beans you can do outdoors. Bush beans will come up quickly. I have
Mhm.
pole beans that I planted in the spring, and I still haven't gotten beans off of them.
Hmm.
And you can start outdoors, but I would start that indoors. Carrots have to be, carrots do not transplant well.
Right.
Cauliflower, you can start indoors if you want. Cucumbers, I always direct seed them outside. They like the warm soil.
Okay.
Chard, you can direct seed outdoors. Cilantro, I have cilantro coming up everywhere. Places
Mhm.
that wasn't even close to where I had it planted. It's coming up everywhere. Kale, that you can start indoors. It likes the cooler weather. Lettuce, this picture right here is at my actual lettuce bed, and I just did a bunch of rows, and I tried to do like dark lettuce, light lettuce, dark lettuce, light lettuce, and I just direct seeded that. And I've been eating salads every night. Mustard greens, you can do outdoors. Peas, you can do outdoors. Radishes, direct sow outdoors. Rutabagas, I'm not 100% sure about. I'll have to look that up because I just learned about rutabagas as I was doing this article. Sorrel, I think you can seed that outdoors, but I actually have sorrel coming up in my woods. So spinach, I have not had luck with spinach, so I'm going to keep trying. But this says
Try the Malabar spinach.
this said start the seeds indoors 6 to 8 weeks before your first frost. So
Okay.
and you'll see up here, I have the links to find your planting zone. If you don't know that, most of you probably do, and your schedule. And this was a great little tool called Calculate Your Days Until First Frost. You click the link and you put in you find out your first frost date, and it'll tell you, and with today's date, it'll say you have 110 days.
Wow.
So when you look at your seed packets and it says 70 days, you can grow it. So this is not by any means this is a very limited list. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that we can grow.
And isn't parsley really hardy too? It seems like that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's at least in Massachusetts, it really hangs in there for a long time.
And parsley takes heavy metals out of your body, so that's a really good herb to throw into a green smoothie every day if you can. I wouldn't have too much spinach or kale raw every day. As Frankie was saying, something about high oxalic acids or something like that. You want to, for some people that you could be sensitive to that, but
I didn't have that problem because my spinach started to grow and then it just immediately bolted. So now I'm growing cowpeas in this with the spinach. I left the spinach in the bed to do its thing, and I planted cowpeas in there to help, because cowpeas is a great crop to help with your soil. But Thomas, you had another comment?
I did. I just want to reiterate what Zen said, and that is freezing is great and convenient, but if things really get nuts and the power goes out, you can't have frozen things. So the other things are a better method.
And you have to remember when you're freezing vegetables, you have to blanch them, because the enzyme that's in the plant will continue, if you don't blanch them to kill that enzyme, your plant will continue to rot in the freezer even though it's frozen.
right.
And
Okay.
then another thing I wanted to say about the oxalates, that blocks calcium absorption and stuff in spinach and chard. But I learned from macrobiotics that if you eat those vegetables with brown rice, it counteracts the oxalate effect so that you can get the minerals from the vegetable.
Okay.
Oh,
And Sylvain?
great.
Yeah, it's about blanching. If you want to store vegetable for less than 6 months in your freezer, you don't need to do any blanching, in my opinion. But if you want to store for a longer period of time, you'll have to deactivate the enzymes in the food, so very rapid blanching.
Yeah, so I thought it was silly. Why do you have to blanch it? It's going to be frozen. And then I learned, and I was like, wow, this is also, all this stuff is so interesting to me.
I've frozen things without blanching and they've come out. They've lasted. They were good. Cauliflower, string beans. So I think maybe if you use it within 6 months, Sylvan.
Yeah, that's what he's just said. So Wow, great. Well, check out,
Great.
check out this article and
The other thing that I learned when I studied macrobiotics about kombu, it was a must to use when you're cooking beans from scratch because it helps break down the beans. As
Hmm.
in addition to all the nutrients, there's something in the kombu that helps break down the beans. Because
so it's like natural Beano.
I don't know if that.
Beano is to help prevent gas people take before they eat beans.
Okay, so that's what it is. It could be a tagline for kombu.
That's so great. Maybe it's derived from it. Maybe that's what Beano is made from.
What,
Well,
what
I
is-
know.
what is that, Joan? Congru? Is it a plant or is it a liquid? Oh,
You can get it. I get it at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's.
You can,
It comes from either usually Japan or Maine, but you have to be careful where it's sourced because of just, the pollution. And I think, Thomas, you have something to say about that.
Kombu.
yeah, the kombu, I just buy I buy it in a package at the natural food store, and then I cut my little 3-inch strips under the cup of beans. And what else was I going to say about kombu?
The other thing is it expands, right, Thomas? It's amazing. You run it underwater, it just totally expands.
Yeah, you were right about the digestion part. I forgot about the digestion part, and then the minerals, and then it's the flavor enhancer. It's MSG without the bad side effects.
That's great.
One more thing, I might not remember, but I can remember it another week. I wanted to welcome our new member, MC Coons, on the bottom. She grows up in Minnesota, so if you can grow in Minnesota, you can grow anywhere.
There you go. Well, thank you for welcoming her. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you everybody for being on tonight. It's 9:32, so we're going to wrap up. I know I'm going to be buying some seaweed and some kombu, some kelp fertilizer, some blooming minerals. I'm going to check out that Sea Agri mineral liquid
They
liquid
were
fertilizer.
selling that Zen at the Heirloom Festival.
I remember that. I remember seeing that name.
And
I remember
kombu's
that.
not too expensive. I'm looking at it now. It's not too bad.
It's very
Yeah, I saw
important
them. They
when
were
you,
next. Go ahead.
it's very important when you cook with kombu your beans that you have to wash the salt off, because if you don't wash the salt off, the beans will stay hard.
Yes.
Oh,
I did know
And I
that.
think, and if you are fortunate enough to live near an ocean and use it in your garden, same thing. I think you should wash the salt off as well as you can, because you don't want a bunch of salt in your soil.
that's great. Okay, awesome. I've been using bunny fertilizer because I have bunnies, but you can buy bunny fertilizer too, by the way, very high in magnesium, potassium, and fish fertilizer has been highly recommended to me by a lot of people as well. And I didn't want to spend tons of money, so I recently bought a fish head and just threw it in a bucket and with a bunch of grass and weeds. And, after about 6 weeks, it doesn't really even smell anymore and it's all broken down. And so you can make a lot of your own fertilizers from scratch. And
You need to be
really,
a dumpster diver at the local fish market.
I guess you could do that too, but I didn't mind $2.50 for a salmon fish head. Now that I talk about salmon, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but no, it's not I don't think it's that anyway. Hopefully not.
So
Get the right kind of fish.
the book that's on our Products I Love page, how to compost everything. I've got an audiobook. I listened to it twice, and I've actually been using urine in the garden.
Yes, a lot of people say nitrogen. If you've got, I don't know, I've got kids outside that could probably be peeing in a bucket instead. But yeah, you can use urine as a nitrogen.
I do it and I put it in my watering can and I fill it up and water.
If you can put a campfire outside and make your own biochar, you want to soak their biochar in urine or fermented urine or other compost stuff before you put the biochar in your garden, because otherwise the biochar will soak up the minerals that are in your garden. So you want to saturate it first with the nutrients and then put it in your garden. So if you want to do that, you can make it last too a lot longer. The biochar, helps it last a lot longer. You just burn wood and then you don't let it burn until it goes to ashes. You pour water on it when it's like black charcoal, and then you crush it up into little bits and pour your urine on it or your compost or whatever you want on it.
All right.
Yeah.
I love these calls.
These are fun. Thank you, Anne, for all of your great research and putting all of it together on our website, neighborhoodfoodnetwork.com. And thank you, Sylvan, for your input about microgreens and
Yeah, go check out
seed
his
balls.
website. It's pretty interesting too, the history of the seed ball and everything. And send me pictures of your gardens. And when you do, send me a little short paragraph, about your garden and maybe how
Yeah.
you got started. And it's great. People love to see pictures of what other people are doing.
They do.
So,
It's very inspiring. And thank you also to Thomas regarding all of your inspiring composting and bringing that tree back to life. That's really exciting. I'm definitely going to get out and fertilize tomorrow.
So in
My fruit
2
trees.
years, I hope to be harvesting mulberries.
You will be. That'll be awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for being on the call tonight. We really appreciate you. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.